Okay. So Mars, we're talking about the kitchen written assignment, and these are your scores. This is A for the reflective statement. It's out of 3 points. B is knowledge and understanding. That's out of 6.
Mm-hmm.
C is appreciation of the author's choices.
Mm-hmm.
That's out of 6. D is organization and development. That's out of 5. E is language, use of language, and that's out of 5. So what I'm going to do is go over each one of these. I'm going to start with the reflective statement,
Mm-hmm.
and then we'll talk about how to improve the essay.
Okay.
Okay? So for the reflective statement here, it's really pretty good. I think maybe the one point I would highlight is maybe in here with the Yoshimoto also presented the value of leisure time
Mm-hmm.
in Japan through the love Mikage had for kitchens. I don't know. Did they say that in the oral? Is that what they were talking? Did they?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's what they said.
Yeah, they said that in Japan, like leisure time is very like important to them and they love spending it in kitchens, like the kitchens where they would gather and cook. Oral, but yeah.
Okay.
It's because they said that usually people would be working, but since like their economy became like really successful, more people could work from home or like had more leisure time, and they chose to spend that with their family cooking things in the kitchen. So that's what.
Okay. 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 Cool. Last but not least, maybe talk about or bring out more of the idea of death,
Okay.
her writing style.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe if it was just referencing her blog or that one quote,
Mm-hmm.
something like that. Okay?
Yeah, so that's the only thing I have to add.
It's the only thing you can possibly change. Okay? Alright, so for the essay, got pretty solid scores here with the knowledge and understanding and the appreciation of the author's choices.
Mm-hmm.
Organization, I think it could stand to be a little bit more organized
Mm-hmm.
in terms of where I think the essay is the strongest and how we could really pull this up is down here. You've got this one paragraph where we get a lot of green,
Mm-hmm.
okay? And I wanted to talk to you about a couple of things in here. You said, Mikake's narrative, although containing adjectives here and there, is still very straightforward. I agree. It's straightforward,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's great. And you mentioned that here in the through Yoshimoto's concise descriptions, right? You
Mhm.
talk about those concise descriptions, and you talk about the casual atmosphere through frank and uncomplicated sentences, aiding to the realism. I need to put that in green because that's really good. That's excellent. From the very beginning to the very end, that's exactly what we're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
I think down here though,
Mm-hmm.
just because there aren't I think there are adjectives. I think Mikage does have moments where she gets real descriptive,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not. It's still straightforward.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
That's what I meant, but I don't know. I just worded it.
It's cool. My other question is ellipses. Do you mean
Wait,
like
yeah.
these things?
No. Shucks. They're like the dot.
You do mean
like,
the ellipses.
Wait, I just
Like
saw
here.
when you put. Yeah.
Here's my old
Yeah. She always.
boyfriend.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
I don't know if they're called.
It is.
Okay,
That's
okay.
exactly what they're called. You're right. I just wanted to see if you were talking about these or about the
Or are
the other
the other ones called
kind of.
ellipses too?
I honestly don't know what they're called.
Oh.
I would call them
Like a-
asterisks almost.
Oh yeah.
They're almost like little stars.
Mm. Is that like a change of scene or something?
It is. It is. And that's what I was wondering because you've got those. You're saying that they create a feeling of sadness or longing.
Like when people like text and like they put like dot. It's like it creates that kind of atmosphere where it's just like, oh, you don't know if they're like sad or like I don't know how to explain it. But that's what I
You're
thought.
doing a good job, and you pointed it out. But if and then you then talk about tone,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
And you're talking about the atmosphere. These are all excellent examples of literary strategies that
Mhm.
Yoshimoto is using to create these feelings. So I
Mhm.
guess what I'm trying to say is, if you could take these strategies
Mhm.
and then apply them more consistently across some of these body paragraphs,
Mhm.
kind of pull out, like, here's your ellipses,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm. So basically, just like kind of like not scatter them around, but like kind of already start introducing. Because I organized it like that like purposely, because I wanted to introduce that part after I had already like given sort of other background information as to how she like how. Because I already, for example, I already mentioned how concise like sentences affected that. So
Mhm.
then but it was only brief. Like I only talked about it briefly in some. But then on that paragraph, then I really like pull more focus in towards that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Okay. Well, so my advice
Mhm.
as the person who's read these and,
Mhm.
I feel like I have a pretty good understanding of what they're looking for. For the most part, we like to see the idea
Mhm.
initially presented,
Mhm.
and then the more effectively you can show this, it's almost like evidence. You're building a case, and so if you've got example after example after example.
Oh, so I should state that first, and then use the body paragraph as examples, and mention how that names. Oh, okay, I get it.
Exactly.
Okay,
Exactly.
that makes sense.
I mean, there's basically two ways to organize it. There's organize it by literary strategies. So she uses short, concise sentences.
and then examples.
She
and,
uses tone.
Uh-huh.
She uses
Mhm.
atmosphere, right? And so then you'd have one paragraph, and you would look at several examples of how
Mhm.
these short, concise sentences create a realistic
Mhm.
effect. And then you'd have another body paragraph, and you'd have several examples of how the, what was the other one? Of tone,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Or you can have it organized almost kind of chronologically, where we're going through the story and we look at each example, and in this example, you pull out and you go, here's the short, concise sentence,
Mhm.
here's the ellipsis,
Yeah.
here's the tone, here's the.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Oh, now like I remember too. A factor that played a role in organization
Mhm.
is like the order she finds her happiness. Like in the beginning, I used that example because she's not there yet.
Right?
And then later on, when she finally met Yuichi, then I mentioned about how it changed the atmosphere. Like now, even though it was casual, there's romance in the atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why.
Okay.
Okay. So it's not effective to organize it like that.
I think for this paper, because what you conclude is that she doesn't ever achieve happiness,
Mm-hmm.
so that we end up in this kind of roller coaster.
Yeah.
It would be more effective for your analysis
Mm-hmm.
to be more straightforward rather than trying to chart the happiness,
Yeah.
because then it gets hard to follow, because you're saying she's not happy, she's happy, she's not happy, she's not
Mm-hmm.
could be.
Yeah.
Just my suggestion, because what I see is a tendency to kind of get sidetracked
Mm-hmm.
in some of these paragraphs, where what we really need to focus on primarily is this explanation of muddled cheerfulness,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I think the if that's what you're going to focus on, and am I right in that?
No, well, my topic wasn't moral cheerfulness. It was just to what extent does she achieve happiness, and then that was the extent as to what she achieved happiness.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and so here's the thing: the topic doesn't have to be your thesis statement. You know what I mean? You don't have to. I mean, that might be the question that started this investigation, and you found the answer, which is muddled cheerfulness, right? And so then we go back and we say, how does Yoshimoto show or reveal muddled cheerfulness as the solution to despair? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. That doesn't change my topic, though,
No,
right?
it doesn't. It doesn't change it at all. It just makes it more focused, so that
Yeah.
instead of trying to stick on this very specific question about how successful is she or how does she achieve it,
Mm-hmm.
and you finally came to the end of it, at the end of the paper you realize, oh, she didn't achieve it. She achieves muddled cheerfulness. She didn't achieve happiness,
Yeah.
right? So, I mean, that's one reason why I consider these drafts of a sort, is that, now you know what she finds, and you know kind of how Yoshimoto creates that answer. And so what you're going to do in your next revision is show us, folks, thank you, is to, show that that's what you've learned. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because again, it really boils down to demonstrating that you appreciate, understand, and explain what Yoshimoto is doing here.
Mm-hmm.
And it's pretty obvious that you've got a really good grasp on it. I just think it needs to be just shifted just a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? Okay? I think here, essentially, you don't need this. This last little bit right here,
Mm-hmm.
you could have something to the effect of Yoshimoto uses in this sentence here, since death and happiness existed in real life. We don't need that either. That's kind of a,
Given.
yeah, right? So it would read something like, in Kitchen, she addressed these topics in a light-hearted, gentle fashion. This approach was very effective, since most of Mikage's wisdom was influenced by depression and existentialism, both of which can be difficult to grasp. Yoshimoto creates a casual atmosphere through frank and uncomplicated sentences, the use of ellipses, and tone,
Yeah, just state all that.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's that. That's that's your introduction, right? And so then we get into
The order, just the body paragraph, we just follow those evidence. Okay.
exactly. And this is I was tied by blood to no creature in this world. I could go anywhere, do anything. It was dizzying, right? I mean, it's
Yeah.
exactly your point.
Yeah, it was super. Oh, okay, I see. I just have to bring that more like
To
out.
really point it out,
Yeah.
okay? And because your insight is spot on. Yes. Her loneliness is neither limiting nor a barrier. Awesome. That is the insight. We get that through this very uncomplicated, very straightforward presentation. It's almost too easy. You know what I mean? You're like, do I have to really spell it out like that? But yeah. Okay. And the ...
Yeah.
Don't let that go. That's awesome. It's a great insight. It creates that kind of sadness or that longing or tension or we're not sure, kind of a cliffhanger, ... We're not sure. It's kind of what you said
Yeah.
in texting, right? It creates an atmosphere or a tone of uncertainty.
Yeah.
Is that closer to it?
Yes, that is.
Okay. Here, this is a little awkward, right? Through Yoshimoto's concise description, the readers were convinced. We don't need any of that. Through Yoshimoto's concise descriptions,
So, like you said, Mikage's life seemed to be simple.
yes,
Okay.
yes, exactly. Or to have to be simplified through the loss of her grandmother. Because it wasn't that her life was simple, it's just that now that her grandmother's gone, now there are no other,
Yeah.
there's nothing. There's no responsibility. In this section, we need more Yoshimoto. You've got Yoshimoto here, right? Through this reasoning, it can be easily understood. No, take that out. And through this reasoning, it's through this description, right? Through this description, Yoshimoto shows that loneliness gave Mikage's life more liberty. Okay.
So I'm noticing that the IB people, they don't like including those like convinced, like it can be easy understood. Like they don't like those kind of.
Because it's useless.
Yeah.
It's useless verbiage. Because and for the most part, it's an assertion that might not be true. The readers were convinced. Well, maybe not. Maybe I'm not convinced. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You're speaking for the readers. You can only speak for yourself. And the only way to speak for yourself is through just saying it.
Yeah.
Exactly. You don't have to say, I think that, right?
Yeah.
Or as a reader, I was convinced. What you're doing instead is just saying it like you just said it. Mikage's life was simplified. Beautiful. Perfect. Concise, clear. You're saying what you mean. We get it. I highlighted this in blue because I think it needs, it is at least worth touching on because it's kind of the key ingredient to the happiness is living a life untouched as much as possible by the knowledge that we are really all of us alone. How do you do that? I'm not sure. But through the story at least, seems like Yoshimoto shows that Mikage makes choices not to stay depressed. She chooses frequently to turn from the depression when there's an opportunity. It's not that she doesn't get depressed. It's not that she doesn't hit bottom.
Yeah.
It's just that she doesn't stay down there. Whereas kind of Yuichi does.
Yeah.
A little longer, right? Even after she comes. This I put in yellow because it really seems to get out of you're trying to do too much right here.
Mhm.
We're trying to cover too many points at once.
Mhm.
Just stick with the Yuichi helps turn her misery around.
Mhm.
Don't try to go forward and mash in Eriko's death and then Yuichi's depression and her, you know what I mean? That's like at least another paragraph jammed up in there.
Mhm.
So just stay focused on Mikage getting help at this point.
Okay.
Okay?
Mhm.
For focus, development here.
But that quote I included there because it's kind of like how the atmosphere sort of changed. Because now, before she didn't used to address happiness in like a positive tone,
Uh-huh.
but then in that one, she actually was looking forward to attempting, like, going to a happier place.
Okay,
So,
so that totally makes sense with you
Mhm.
explaining it to me.
but
But
I just
but sitting here
Mhm.
reading it, if I didn't know you and you weren't explaining it to me,
Mhm.
I don't get that so much. Part of it is when you revise this with it organized differently, if you have one section about tone and how that shifts,
Mhm.
then this would be perfect. Does that make sense,
Mhm.
sort of?
Yeah.
But as it's organized now, as it's presented now, this is jammed up, and I don't understand that this is
Like relevant.
exactly without you explaining it. I'm like, huh?
Yeah. Mhm.
Why did we just jump to here? Because we were just at her meeting. I don't
Mhm.
understand. Here's the paragraph. We're gonna pick it apart,
Mhm.
and then
Kind of distribute it.
mm-hmm,
Yeah.
exactly, kind of Lego it out. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Take the 4 blocks out of this, and then move them everything else underneath.
Mhm.
I'm not sure about the tone here, and again, this is part of like what I was saying.
Mhm.
This is how you started the paper. What you come to realize is that this is the answer, right?
Mhm.
So again, once you revise it, you could probably lose this little bit in yellow.
Mhm.
She learned to achieve contentment.
Mhm.
Okay?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Mhm. Yeah.
And again, this is purely from the perspective of the IB written assignment,
Mhm.
rubric, and examination work that I've done, and what I see rewarded again and again, like the examples that
Mhm.
we've seen. Okay? Awesome.
All right.
So you get this, and I will send you a YouTube link once I get this.
So this